Hello everyone, my name is Kumar and welcome back to our channel KUMAR Programming. This is the third part of this series where we are building an e-commerce project which is online shoe store in Next.Js 15. In our previous session, we have created our application and we were able to execute it, right? And now in this session, we are going to create our project layout where we are going to configure ShadCN and we are going to configure our Tailwind CSS and also we are going to create our header and footer and many more, right? And if you are enjoying this session and finding value in it, then don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps to me. And if you think this could help someone else, go ahead and share it with them and let's spread the knowledge and grow together. So now let's start. So this is the brand new project which we have created in our previous session and we were able to execute it. See here, this is our home page running, right? And now I'm going to close this terminal. It would be running behind the scene, right? And now let's go to the layout page. Here in our layout, let's start with the font. So here I'm going to use the font as Roboto, this Roboto, and I'm going to use this Roboto font here. If you want to use any other font from Google, you can use it. I'll show you here, Google Fonts. And if you go here, you can find out list of all the fonts over here. See here, these all are the famous fonts, but I like this Roboto. So I'm going to start with the Roboto font. And here I'm going to use this Roboto and I'll change this name Roboto, right? And here I'll use the subset as Latin and here we have to use our weight. Weight is going to be passed as 300 and 700. It's 700, okay? And now this is not needed because we are using Roboto and here we are going to use this Roboto dot class name, right? And we will remove this. It's not needed at all. Fine, right? Let's make it in a single line, right? Let's format it. Control A, Control KF. It's going to format your file. Now I'll make this in a single line. So this is the children and this would be the read-only props and it would be type of React node, right? Now here we'll give the title of our project. I'll give source store and I'll give the description as a modern website in Next.Js 15, right? Great. Now let's see if our Roboto font is applied. So now if you see here, our Roboto font is applied here and you see our title is coming as a shoe store, right? So it's working fine. Now in the next step, we are going to move this global.css file inside our asset folder. So I have created an asset folder over here. Under assets, I have created a style. So I'll move this global.css file inside this styles folder, right? And we have to change the path over here. So here @ that is the root, right? And then after that, we will give our assets and after that we will give styles and then globals.css files, right? It's not coming, right? Now let's see if our CSS is working fine. Yes, it's working fine. Okay, right? Now we are going to configure our Tailwind CSS, right? So in order to configure our Tailwind CSS in our global.css file, here I'm going to change the configuration because I'm going to use the theme, light theme and dark theme, right? So already I have this configured. So I'm just going to do the copy paste and I'll provide this into the GitHub repository. So you can take the reference of it. So now see, this is my global.css file where we have given some utility classes here. Wrapper, I'm going to give this. Wrapper is nothing. This is our main div for the application where I'm giving the width for the application is 90%. And this is created for the short form for flex start, flex center, right? So this is just a utility classes. And here I have created a base root for the our light theme and this is for our dark theme and this is some classes applied on the body and this is some classes applied on the for the entire element, right? I have given border for our entire element. So this is all our global.css file. And the other thing that we have to configure for our Tailwind CSS, we have to do the changes in our config file, right? So I'm going to replace my theme over here. This is my theme. I'm going to replace my theme. So see, I have just replaced my theme here. I have given all the extents for the colors. These all are the color for primary, secondary, muted, everything that I have replaced it, which is I'm going to use in our application, right? So this is all the configuration that we need for the Tailwind CSS. Now let's quickly see that if our Tailwind CSS is working fine. So here I'll give as a button and I'll give class name as a bg green 300 and I'll give name as a button, and let's see if it's working fine. Yeah, see, this button is coming as a green background, so it's working fine, right? Now let's remove this. Now the next thing that we are going to configure, which is ShadCN, and that the component library which we are going to use in our application. So here we have our ShadCN component library for Next.js. So first of all, you have to initialize this library, right? So first of all, we will initialize it, and then after that, we would be adding those components. And the good thing is this library, the components are highly customizable, right? So you can customize as per your requirement those components. Now as far as for the component, you can look here, and if you see here, we are having several components: accordion, alert dialog, and many more, right? So that you can use in your application. So we are going to use the bunch of components from here in this project. So the first thing that you have to do is go to the docs here, and here if you go inside the installation, and for the Next.js, first of all you have to initialize it, right? And once it's initialized, it's going to create a component.json file, right, where we can configure our components. And then after that, we have to add the components like this, right? The command is npx shadcn@latest add button, right? And if you are facing any issues, then we can, might be it's not being supported to the Next.js 15 and React 19 as of now. So if you see here, they have given some kind of information over here. If it's not being supported, you can use that either force options or legacy peer devs options, right? So now let's initialize it. Now let's go to the Visual Studio and initialize it. So I'm going to open a new terminal over here. This is the already running terminal. So I'll create another terminal, and here to use the command, right? This is the command to initialize. So I'm just going to copy this command and enter, right? Now it's going to initialize our ShadCN library in our project. So here it's asking to install ShadCN. So I'll press Y. Now it's going to install ShadCN. So here I'm going to have some bunch of questions like which style would you like to use? So I'm going to use default, and then it's going to ask which color would you like to use as a base color. I'm going to use as a slate, and here would you like to use CSS variable? Yes. Now it's updating the Tailwind config and our global.css file. Now if you see here, it's giving me two options. How would you like to proceed, using force or legacy peer devs option? Because as of now, it's not supporting to React 19, right? So what we are going to ignore all those peer dependencies, right? So I'm going to use this legacy peer devs, and might be after some time, once these ShadCN is going to support for React 19, you won't be able to see this message, but it's absolutely fine. You can just use it and ignore the peer dependencies from the required packages, right? So now I'm going to use this legacy peer deps. Now it's installing the dependencies. So after a couple of minutes, my dependencies are installed and our project initialization is completed for our ShadCN, right? And if you see here, it's created a component.json file, and here all the configuration is already being added. So components are going to be picked from the root folder at the component, and it's having a lib folder from where it's going to have the utility. So if you see here, it's created a lib folder, and here inside that we are having a utility, right? We are going to use this. And now we are going to add our component. So now let's add our component. So I'm going to use the command in order to add here. We have our command as a npx shadcn latest add button, right? So I'm going to use this. I'm going to provide all those commands in my readme.md file, where I'm keep updating it on each and every end of the session. So you can take the reference from there as well. Now here I'm going to add this component, button component. And now here it's asking to either you are going to use the force or legacy peer devs. I'm going to use this legacy peer devs option, right? If you see here, now our button component is added. If you see here, there is a component folder is added, right? And inside the component folder, we have added a UI, and inside this UI, there is a button component added. So see here, this button component. And if you want to customize this button component, you can customize it, right? But we are going to use it as it is. So this is how we can add our component by using our ShadCN library. Now let's quickly see that if this our button component is working fine or not. So here I'm going to, in our page dot tsx file. This tsx is extension for TypeScript, right? And if you're using JavaScript, then it would be a JSX, right? So here I'm going to use this button, and it should be imported from our component, right? So it's going to be imported. So see here, this button is coming from component UI button, right? So I'm going to use this. If you see here, this button is imported. Now here I'll give as a button, right? Let's see if it's working fine. See now this I have a size as a 120, right? So now it's 100%. So now see this button, we are getting a nice button over here. So we are going to use, so our ShadCN component library is configured successfully, and we have added our button as well, right? Now I'll remove this button. All right. So now we are going to create our header and footer. So first of all, if you see here, we have our layout page, right? So this is the root layout page, but we are not going to do any changes over here. And if you see these children, so this children props is going to be rendered inside our body, HTML body, right? So we are not going to do any changes in this our root layout. We are going to create another group folder, which is would be as a root. So if I give like this root, right? So this is the root folder, and if you give like this inside a parenthesis, it's not going to consider as a route, right? So we have module like our cart module, order module, product module, search module, right? All those modules are going to be there inside our root folder, right? So if you see here, if I have given root cart module inside the root, I don't have to give like root cart, right? I don't have to give like this. I need to just give like slash cart, and it's going to work, right? So let's do the changes now. Here inside our root module, I'm going to create another layout.tsx, and here I'm going to use this same layout, root layout, right? And here I'll use this root layout. So I'm going to remove everything from here, and I'm going to create a div flags, and that would be column, because header, footer, and main items, everything is going to be come inside a column only. So here I'll give flex call, and I'll have a screen height, right? So height of screen, right? And now inside this, I'm going to create a main. So here I'll give main dot flex one, and we are going to use our wrapper class, which we have created in our global.css file, right? And inside this main, we are going to render our children. Now we will verify if this root layout is working or not. So here I'll mention as a root, and let's see if it's working. So we are not seeing the root over here. It is because of we are having here this root page, right? This root page is outside of this root layout, right? So we are going to move this inside our root. Okay, now see if it should be working fine. Refresh this. Yeah, now see this is working, right? So this our home page is coming inside our root, right? Now let me remove this. Now what I need to do, I need to set up our constants and environment variables. So what I'm going to do here, inside my lib folder, I'm going to create another folder as a constants, and inside constants I'm going to create another file as a index.ts, and I'm going to create a constant variable over here for the app name, and that constant variable I'm going to use inside my layout here, right, for the title. So here I'll create a constant name as a export const, and we are going to have variable name as a app name, right, equal to, and we have, first of all, we have to check this variable name from our .env file, right? So here we are going to use as a process.env, dot the variable name, right? The variable name which we have is app name. So now let's create another file over here as a .env, where we are going to have all the environment variables .env, right? And inside .env we are going to create a variable as a next public app name, right? Because we are using as a next, and that would be the client side. So next public and app name, right? And that which we are going to give it as switch to, right? And this variable we are going to use inside our constants. So process.env dot next public. Okay, so this should be next public app name. Let's see what it is here inside our .env file. Yeah, next public app name, right? Now, and if we don't have the value inside our environment variable, then we will hard code it, right, as a SUSE store. Got it? Now we are going to use this app name variable inside our layout, right? So this is our main layout, and here we are going to use this app name. Now here we can import our app name. So import app name. Here we have app name. So it's going to be, see, it's going to be imported from library constants. And now this app name can be used here. I'm going to use this backtick and app name, right? Now, if I change this app name inside our .env file, here I'll give SUSE-store1. So it should be showing as a SUSE-store1 over here as well. See, now it's showing SUSE-store1. Okay. So I'll just revert it back. So our .env file configuration is working fine, and as well as our constants variables are working fine, right? Now, similarly, we are going to have this for our app description as well. So I'll just copy it, and here I'll give as an app description, okay? And I'll use this description, which we have given over here, modern website Next.Js 15, right? So I'll give it here, and I'll use this from the constant. So since we have not added this variable, so I'll add this variable inside app our constants. So here I'll add this as a app description, and we'll be having the same description over here as well, right? And now we are going to use this app description inside our root layout. So here we will use our app description as a backtick and curly bracket and app description, right? Also, we are going to have another variable as a server URL. So here inside our .env file, we are going to have another variable as a server URL, right? And here we will give our URL for the project now, right? And we are going to import it from our constant. So here server URL and public next public server URL, and here we will give this path URL path over here. So you are getting my point, right? We are exporting these variables to the applications, but before that we are checking if these variables are available there in our .env file or not. If it is available, then it's going to pick from .env, and if it's not available, then it's going to take it from our hard-coded value, right? That's what we are doing as of now. Now I want to show you quickly something. In our home page, suppose that here I want the home and then slash and then application name for each and every page, right? So how we can achieve this? So let's see here inside our home page, what I'll do, I'll just override my metadata, right? So I'll copy this and I'll override my metadata over here. So here this metadata should be imported from Next, and I'll remove this title and I'll give this title as a home, right? And I'll remove this description, right? And now if you see here, we would be able to see that why it is failing. Export default home page. Okay, title metadata, it looks good. Let's see, refresh it once again. Yeah, right. So now if you see here we are seeing the home, right? But we are not seeing the application name, but we want to see the application name as well. So what we have to do here we are overriding our value here inside our layout file. Here we are going to change this. So what we are going to change this here, we are going to pass these value inside an object. Okay, so here I'll give as a template, right? And inside this template we are going to pass percentile s. This percentile s is the title which is coming from the home page, right? And then after that we will give the pipe sign, and we will give the title, application title, which is SUSE store, right? And the next thing we are going to give as a default value. Also we are required to give the metadata base over here. So here metadata base, and for this metadata base we are going to use this new URL, and we are pass this our server URL, right? We have created it some time back, right? Server URL, and this server URL is going to be imported from our constants, right? Now let's see in the browser. So if you see here in the browser, if you see the title, it's coming as a home and application name, right? Along with the pipe. So now most of the basic setups are completed. Now we are going to move ahead and create our header and footer for the application. So now I'll just close this terminal for now. And here inside our component folder, I'm going to create another folder as a shared folder. And inside this shared folder, I'm going to create a header, and we are going to create a file over here inside header, right? Index.tsx. So we are going to have this header, and inside this header we are going to have menu, we are going to have toggler, all those components, right? And all those components going to be reside inside this header, and this header is going to be changed along way with our project as goes, but the component footer will be very simple, and we are not going to have any changes in footer, right? So let's start. Here what I'll do, I'll use sfc, stateless function component, right? And here I'll give header, and this inside this I'm going to use the React fragment, and here I'll just mark it as a okay. And now I'm going to use this header inside our layout. So this is our layout, root layout, right? Which we have overridden our main layout. Okay. So now here before main, we are going to use our header component. Okay. And this header needs to be imported from our components folder, component shared folder. So this can be imported from component shared header, right? And now similarly, we are going to create a footer, but before that, let's see if our header is coming. Yes, our header is coming, right? Now quickly inside our components, I'll create another file over here as a footer.tsx, because this is not part of shared, because footer is not going to be shared anywhere. So we are going to have a separate file, footer.tsx. Now here I'll use sfc, and then I'll use footer, right? And here I'll use our React fragment, and I'll use here footer. And now see if it is coming our footer or not. Sorry, I have not added this footer into our layout, right? So I need to add this in our layout. So here, right? And this footer needs to be imported from our components folder. Yeah, components footer, right? Now it should be displayed over here. So see, now our footer is coming, right? Now what we are going to do, let's design our footer first. So here inside our footer component, what we are going to do is I'm going to return a footer, and I'm going to give the class name as border top, right? Border top. Now inside this footer, we are going to create a div with some padding. So I'll give padding p5, and we are going to make all the content in the center. So we will have flex center, right? You remember that we have created some utility classes around flex inside our global.css file. So that's the same class we are using over here, right? And inside this, we are going to show the year. So let's get the year first. So here we are having a const current year, which is going to be new det dot get full year, right? It's going to give the current year, right? So what I'm going to use this current year value here inside the curly bracket, current year, and then I have to provide our application name, right? So here I'll give app name, and then after that we have to give like all right reserved, right? Statement rates reserved. Yep, I think that's should be working fine. Now let's see if it works. So see, at the very bottom we have very nice footer. Now we are going to work on header. Now let's design our header component. So inside our header, inside shared, inside header, I'm going to return over here, create header, and inside this I'm going to give the class name for header as with full and border bottom, right? And now inside this header, we are going to take another div, and we are going to give the wrapper, right? If you remember that we have created a class wrapper where we have given the width of the application is 90%, right? So here wrapper, I'm going to use that class, and the item which we are going to have inside this wrapper is going to be a flex between, right? So I'll be using flex between, right? And now inside this, we are giving another div. So I'll give div dot flex start, right? And inside this flex start, I'm going to give the link for our application. So here I'll give link, next link, right? And then I'll give href. Href would be slash, and then we are going to give as a class name as a flex start, right? Let's close this link, and inside this link we are going to give our application logo, right? So I'm going to give as an image, and image would be having source, right? src, and here I'm going to give the path for our source, right? And also I'm going to give the alt, and for alt we are going to give the application name and then logo, right? So here I'll bind inside the here app name, and then I'll give logo, right? And this app name needs to be imported. Yeah, it's imported. Then where is the problem? Image tag closed, and this alt, this image is not there, right? So let's import this image from next image, right? Next image. Yeah, now it's correct. And this image we have to provide our height and width as well. So height I'll give as a 48 would be fine, and width I will give as a 48. Both height and width would be same, and then I'll give priority. This priority is going to decide that this image is going to be load on priority basis in the browser. So I'll give as a true, right? Because this is the application logo and needs to be load first. Fine, right? And now I'm going to add this image inside our public folder. Here we have our public folder, right? And inside this public folder, I'm not needing these images, right? So I'll delete all these images. Sorry, I have deleted our public folder as well. Is it? No. Okay. So now here I'm going to add our application logo, which I have already created. So here inside my public folder, I'll create another folder as a images, and inside images, I'm going to copy my logo. So this is my logo, right? And I'm going to use this logo inside my header, right? So here I'm going to use this logo as a slash images, and then I'll be using this logo.png, right? That's png file. Let me ensure this. Yeah, it's png file. Now let's see if it's working fine. Yeah, see, now if you see here, we are seeing a nice header here, and here we are able to see our logo, right? And after this logo, we want to see our application name, right? So we will write our application name after this logo. So here we are going to use span dot, it should be hidden for our small screen, right? And for the large screen, it should be block, right? Font should be bold, and text should be 2 times extra large, and it should be having some margin from the left, right? So I'll give ml3. Okay, let's see how it looks like. And here I'll give application name, right? So here we have app underscore name. Now let's see, it's showing span hidden. Why? Let's see. No, it's not refreshed, I believe. Yeah, now it's refreshed and we are able to see our application name, and we want to see this application name in uppercase. So here I'll use the class name as a uppercase. It should be coming in uppercase now. Yeah, now it is coming in uppercase. Okay. Now after this, we need some button over here at the right side, like our shopping cart, our user, right? And sign in button. So now let's see how exactly it look like in our live application. Now if you see in our live application, here we have right side our theme toggle button, and then cart and sign in, right? Now let's add all those buttons. Here I'm going to create another div space x2, and inside this div I'm going to use the button. You remember that already we have added our button, and this button would be as a child, and variant I'm going to use as a ghost. Why my IntelliSense is not working, right? And this button needs to be imported from component UI button, right? And inside this button I'm going to give a link. So I'm going to copy this link, right? And I'm going to give this link as a cart, right? And inside this link I'm going to give a image, shopping cart image, right? And this shopping cart is coming from Lucid React, and here I'll write cart. Okay, now let's see how it look like. See, now we are getting the cart over here. Okay, and similarly I'm going to have another icon for user, so I'll just copy it, paste it right below to this button, and here I'll use this sign in, right? And here I'll write as a sign in, and here I'll use user icon. Okay, right? Now let's see. Yep, now here we are getting, but still here we are getting as a, yeah, now we are getting as a user icon, right? So now let's see, and we will just see if it's working for the mobile or not. Yeah, so now see, it's getting responsive, right? So now we have created our header and footer. The shoe store is having capitals, right? So we are going to settle name from here uppercase. Okay, I'll remove this class. Now we having shoes store, right? Great. So in this video, we have created our layout, we have created our environment file, we have created our constants file, and from those constants file, we have imported our application name, right? And after that, we have created our header file, footer file, and those header footer are implemented inside our layout pages, right? And in our next video, we are going to create our theme mode toggle, and also we are going to create our loading not found page, and we are going to create our responsive menu. And friend, if you found this tutorial helpful, do me a favor, like this video to support me and my channel, and subscribe my channel if you haven't already done so far for more amazing videos. And share this with your fellow developers who might find it useful. And if you really love my work, then consider buying me a coffee to support for more free tutorials. Link is given below in the description. Alright, so that's all for the day. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Till then, take care and keep learning.